Do any of you know who Amberlynn Reid is?
Big? Are you calling me big?
I keep up with her a bit, especially recently since her ex has come out and shared their experiences with her, and I watched Mrs. Snowflake's video on her recent apology. In the apology, she claims that a lot of her mistreatment for her ex, or of her ex, was due to blackouts that she experiences caused by stress and anxiety. Mr. Snowflake brought up the Jeremy Kyle show, which for you Americans is basically British Jerry Springer, and how on the show, abusers would use the same excuse. I don't remember doing that, I must have blacked out. This all got me thinking about what it means to take responsibility when your mental illness or even just general mental state plays a part in your actions and how much responsibility is actually on you yourself. The blackout example is something that I wanted to touch on as it is a very real thing, but it is also used ad nauseum to excuse poor behaviour. Also, note that this is entirely my opinion and based off of my own personal experiences. If you have any other opinions, if you have any other ideas, I'm happy to hear them in the comments. There was one time when I was roughly 15-16 where I experienced my first blackout. I was being picked on by one girl in particular, and all I remember to this day was I was standing at my desk, and then the next thing I was being held back by my then partner. I remember crying, trying to get him to let me go, but he wouldn't, and I didn't understand why. After I calmed down, he explained to me that I went to attack her, so he stopped me. I'm not a violent person, nor am I strong in any sense of the word, so this was really surprising to me. Years later, I was diagnosed with autism, and I now know that what I experienced was what's called an autistic meltdown. Not all autistic meltdowns cause blackouts, but it can happen. I don't know if professionals still use this terminology, but when I was working with autistic people, we'd call this the crisis point. So I now know that what I experienced back then was me reaching crisis point and losing control of my actions. So it was caused by a neurological disorder and bullying, and I had no control. Does that mean I wasn't responsible? Well, while I didn't actually physically harm anyone, I did put my peers in a stressful situation. Our substitute teacher seemed inexperienced, so I reckon she'd never witnessed a scene like that on the job before. My then partner had to deal with my outburst and take control over the situation, something he definitely hadn't prepared for, and I'm willing to bet he probably didn't enjoy doing either. While I didn't physically harm anyone other than myself, I still caused stress for bystanders, so I absolutely needed to apologize for that once I had gathered myself. I didn't beat myself up about it, but I did try to understand what the outburst was caused by. At the time, I didn't know I was autistic, so I figured it could have been stress, anxiety. Maybe it was because I was repressing that stress and anxiety in order to appear calm. Maybe it was because I wasn't talking to anyone about the bullying at the time. From there, I tried my hardest to ensure that it wouldn't happen again. Unfortunately, it did happen once or twice after, but each time I did the same thing. I apologized for my actions and tried to understand the situation so I could better avoid it in the future. Now that I've had my diagnosis, I know exactly what causes meltdowns like this, and can put in effective strategies to de-escalate the situation when I'm clearly overwhelmed. And I don't do it alone either. I've ensured that the people closest to me are aware of the signs, so if for some reason I need help calming down, they can help me. And since I've been putting in that work and have been getting the right support, I haven't had an instance like this happen again. The thing is, meltdowns like this don't just affect your relationships, but can affect all aspects of your life as well. I had to quit my job because of it. I was working in an after-school club and I genuinely loved my job. The staff were great and so were the kids. But then I started university and struggled to balance work, uni, and project work. Eventually, I noticed my stress levels rise a lot more in work, found myself becoming increasingly overwhelmed, and almost having meltdowns and panic attacks while I was on shift. I knew then that I had to quit. I wasn't going to allow the children I worked with to witness me having a panic attack or a meltdown, and unfortunately my boss wasn't one for reasonable adjustments, so the best thing for me was to leave and focus on university. It was my responsibility to take action and to avoid any more upset. Meltdowns aren't beneficial for the person experiencing them or the people around them, so it makes sense that most people would want to try and work on the root problem. Lessen the cause, lessen the effect. But that's the difference between a genuine explanation and an excuse. People like Amberlynn Reid will use their poor mental state as an excuse as many times as they can before the people around them stop believing them. They'll never put in the work to actually be better, they'll just claim that they will be better, and then the cycle will continue. Now don't get me wrong, there are times when people around you will think your genuine explanation is an excuse. I've been accused of being manipulative for crying or playing dumb when I ask for further clarification and using my autism as an excuse for playing dumb. But reality is, sometimes I genuinely need that extra clarification. And it is, unfortunately, because autism makes communication difficult. I can't change that, it's a part of me that is stuck this way. But I can put in steps to make it easier. That's why I ask for further clarification, so that there is no miscommunication. But the person who accused me of playing dumb or playing innocent didn't see it that way, and no amount of explaining would change that. It's unfortunate, but I do think most people would be understanding if you were to explain that it's something you cannot control and are putting in the effort to make things easier. However, if you have actually hurt someone, whether you meant to or not, whether you could control it or not, it is still up to you to take responsibility. Often, apologies are empty, it's the actions that matter. If you slip up a couple times, don't beat yourself up, because it's a learning curve. Just keep trying to ensure you don't repeatedly make the same mistake and really put the effort in to communicate with those around you. On the other hand, if you're one of the people who consistently use their mental state or mental illness as an excuse to keep hurting those around you, really analyze yourself for a moment. If you know that you are a risk to yourself or others around you, it is your responsibility to change that. Whether that be through therapy, medication, inpatient, or even just taking yourself out of the situation. Nobody else can make you get better, only you can. And if you refuse after being told over and over and over again that you're abusive or that you're hurting people, then people will only assume that you're doing it on purpose to get away with it. Yes, having mental illness and neurological illness absolutely does suck, and it will make your relationships harder to manage than the average person, but that doesn't make you exempt from responsibility. By all means, explain that what you did was a direct cause of your struggles, but don't forget that there's still another person who's been hurt, and it's on you to not allow your mental health to get in the way of treating people correctly. If you managed to stick through this video, thank you for watching. I have been tempted to talk about Amberlynn Reid for a while, since every time she opens her mouth I start tweaking. She's a very, very intriguing person. I've never seen someone so incapable of change before. But I don't want to turn this channel into a girl world reaction channel, so I have refrained. What do you think about the use of mental illness as an excuse versus an explanation? I would love to hear your thoughts. I hope you have a great day, and I'll probably see you soon.